Quarterfinals of the FIFA World Cup happening in USA, Mexico, and Canada. And some are saying that we had 48 teams, and right now we're down with 7 teams. Yeah, and some will say before the next 2 days, we would have just 4 teams that would move to the semifinals of the World Cup. Welcome to the FIFA Roundup Show on Atlantic TV. My name is Richard Onwaje. On the show, as usual, today we'll follow up on what's happening around the World Cup, all the big stories from around the World Cup, and talk about the quarterfinals game, focus on Africa, and talk about what happened around Morocco yesterday. Morocco had their own day against France in the quarterfinals match. We'll talk about that on the show today. We'll talk about what will happen in the other games we'll be expecting from the quarterfinals. As usual, our very own senior correspondent who is in Miami, Florida today, I talk about Pooja, who joins on the show to give us some updates around the FIFA World Cup. Welcome to the show and thank you for joining us. If you're ready, let's go in. And everybody will talk about one team, the team that looks so set, the country that looks so set to win the World Cup in 2026. Now, many football lovers are having their eyes and having their money on the French national team. And the French national team had their way yesterday. It's the FIFA World Cup Roundup Show. Richard Onwaje is my name right here on Atlantic TV. Now, let's go straight and see the game that happened yesterday from the quarterfinals match between one of Africa or Africa's last representative in the World Cup, Morocco, where they had this very interesting game against France. And the game, as usual, came with all, the big thoughts around the fact that this particular fixture was a repeat of what happened in 2022 when we had France go against Morocco. But this time it was in semi-finals where we saw France defeat Morocco to go and play, later went to play the finals with Argentina. So this was a repeat of that game. It also happened that it's same goals that were scored in the semi-finals about 4 years ago, were same goals that were scored, 2 goals. Beautiful goal from the man they call Mbappé. It was a hard nut to crack for the French national team, but Deschamps' men were able to start cracking that in the second half of the game, where we saw the first goal coming in from Mbappé, and the current Ballon d'Or winner, talk about Dembele, also had his way to score in that particular game yesterday to make it 2 goals, to win by 2 goals to nothing. And that shows how interesting the World Cup is. And of course, the French national team are moving to the semi-finals of the World Cup. Now, look at the French national team, and you take your minds back to 20. Some talk about the fact that in 2014, they left the World Cup in the quarterfinals. In 2018, they did so well, played against Uruguay. 2022, in the quarterfinals, they played against England, and they moved further to the semi-finals, and later got to the finals. And this time around, in the quarterfinals, they played against Morocco. One great attributes of the French national team is their consistency and the fact that they play very good flowing football. Now, the fact that Deschamps understands the beauty in his team, and we will talk about one man who is just spectacular for them right now. His name is Dembele. Dembele is still giving his 100%, and Dembele, or Mbappé rather. Let's talk about Mbappé giving his 100% for the team. Some will talk about Olise, who is the real playmaker in that French national team, giving those key passes and helping the team to do very well. All right, from what's happening around there, let's look at the game that would happen later on this evening. Talk about the game between Spain and Belgium, a quarterfinal game that would be one of those very interesting matches. Where was the Spanish team going against the Belgian team? Now, the Belgian team, some spoke around their golden age and said that golden age, you saw them get to the semis, and the debate around the fact that this particular age of players, many are not looking at them as the golden age, but going against the Spanish team, this has gotten many people talking around how far this particular team can go. Now, to break this down for us this evening, let's go straight to Miami, Florida, and join our very own correspondent there, Pooja, who is waiting for us. Of course, just arrived Miami, where he left Atlanta, and he's getting ready for the England and Norway match. But he has a lot to tell us about what's happening around the World Cup. Top of the morning to you, Pooja. Tell me something. How are you doing? The stress for you, traveling from one state to another state just to cover the World Cup. But tell me first of all, how are you doing?
Good morning. It's still morning here. Doing well. The stress has not been easy, but we have to do what we have to do we have games. Unfortunately, there's no quarterfinal games in Atlanta, so we have to travel down to Miami, which is a bit closer, 1 hour 30 minutes to Atlanta to cover, the game against England and Norway. So and we return back in semi-final because there's one semi-final in Dallas and one semi-final in Atlanta before we now go to the New York for the final on June 19th.
Thank you very much, Pooja, for all the efforts down there. Now let's talk about yesterday's game. First of all, what we saw the French national team, triumph over the only African team that is led in the World Cup, Morocco. Now, you have been one particular person that's very critical about African teams' performance in the World Cup, and you spoke around the fact, during the last time when we had you on the show, you spoke around, the mentality, the psyche, and everything. But this is a Morocco team where we expected a lot from them. Although your own prediction, you believed based on what you fact, you believe that the French national team were better off when it comes to playing compared to the Moroccan national team. But were you surprised with what you saw yesterday? Or did you expect more from Morocco against France yesterday?
Well, I wasn't surprised because, like I said on the show yesterday or day before yesterday, I said, unfortunately for Morocco, France have witnessed every type of football against opponents. They've witnessed low blocks, they've witnessed attacking football, and they witnessed a very physical football against Paraguay. So it looks like they passed all the tests from top teams. And if you look at Morocco, what will Morocco put on the table? If they want to play attacking football, France have faced that. If they want to play, low blocks, they face that. If they want to be physical, as the Paraguayans, they've faced that as well. So I don't think it was something that everybody should be worried about. I know France will surely win. You just imagine how many goals they are going to concede, because this French team, I don't think any team can stop them. Maybe Messi factor can be, but I don't think any team can stop them going to the final. And like I said, there's some players in the team who can enter any national team in the world, and they've not even kicked a ball once. A key example is Kante. Kante has not kicked a ball in almost 7 matches at this World Cup. He has not tested any minute. And you look at that quality, that if the chips are down, these type of players can come from the bench and do the business, because the first 11 have been doing the business. Dembele have scored 4 goals. Olise with I think 5 assists, and Mbappé with 8 goals. That means Mbappé has scored 20 goals in 20 appearances at the World Cup. He has not been defeated, or he has not been eliminated from the World Cup. Not even defeated, because they didn't defeat them in regular time, in Qatar. So Mbappé is building the team, and now that he's the captain, he's actually dragging them to the final. So I'm not surprised. Morocco have done their best. They're the best team in Africa on all ramification, but against a French team, that will be their bus stop.
All right, that will be their bus stop, and I am sure several lessons from African teams looking at the World Cup from a very holistic, side. Now, let's talk about the game today, where we would have a very interesting game. The Spanish team, good defensively so far in the World Cup, and they are going against Belgium. The Belgian team, many did not expect them to get this part of the World Cup. Many believe that their golden age is over, but we've seen them, push the quarterfinals. Do you see the Belgian team triumphing over the Spanish team?
I think it's going to be a very key game and a very tough game for Spain, because unfortunately for them, Belgium have kickstarted their World Cup. I think that coming back against Senegal raised their game, and of course kickstarts a kind of new momentum for them. Imagine in that game against Senegal, their best players, or one of their best players, 2 of them, Doku and Kevin De Bruyne, was removed from that game, substituted out of that game, and they still found a way to beat Senegal, scoring 2 goals, in 5 minutes, and going ahead to win them, in the extra time. And look again, Mbappé has been like, Lukaku has been like a super star for them. He has been coming on to score. Look at how they destroy USA, who had all the momentum. USA have played all their games in the US, around Los Angeles, and they couldn't even do anything against the Belgium team. We believe their golden ages are gone. So for Spain, they didn't really do well against Portugal. But you say Portugal has a big team as well, and they find a way to win. And like I said, your bench is very key. And I think the two guys on the bench, Merino came in against Portugal, got the winning goal. Lukaku has been coming in as a substitute and has been scoring goals, even scored a goal against USA when they
Okay,
from that Senegal.
okay,
So
we have him back, all right. Okay. Thank you. You can go on, please.
for Spain to keep the house. So it's very key for Spain to keep the house, in shape, and of course, get a win against Belgium, who looks like they've regained their form and the momentum is with them. Is with them.
Momentum. Now let's talk about something very, very special. Now you have covered the World Cup and you have seen different teams from different parts of the world. Now, what is your take home from what you have seen so far in terms of Nigeria? Now, how do you think we can take our football in Nigeria to the next level based on what you have seen in terms of infrastructure, the kind of the different stadia you have seen in different parts of USA you've been. What do you think? What do you think is your own major take home, and what do you think Nigeria can be able to implement if you were to have a one-on-one with the head of the sports commission? What would you be telling him?
Okay, Nigerian football is split into two different perspective. I think infrastructure wise and of course performance wise when we talk about the Super Eagles. And so for the infrastructure, I think we have a long way to go. I don't think there's no stadium. I stand to be corrected that can host the World Cup, the World Cup in Nigeria. No, even Uyo cannot, because if you want to host the World Cup, Uyo could be the main center, main media center for maybe accreditation and journalists, or where the final is going to take place. And the facility in Uyo Stadium is like 20% to the facility in either Atlanta Stadium or even the New Jersey Stadium. So you are looking at a whole, a whole infrastructural development in Nigeria, and that is only Uyo. There's no other stadium in Nigeria that can host any game at the World Cup. So what the NLC or what the federation have to do is, and even governors, they have to build stadium. But this stadium, can they be served in terms of to their capacity, in terms of usage? I don't think so, because what are we doing in Nigeria? We don't even watch matches in Nigeria. There's no fan base in Nigeria. So it will be a waste of resources. Look at you. There's nothing that is going on in Uyo now. If the Super Eagles are not playing, it cannot be used to the optimum. Of course, Aqua United play there, but Aqua United play in the NNL. So look at the level of money spent in Uyo, and it cannot, give you that level of capacity. On the other side as well, for the Super Eagles, the games I've watched at this World Cup, we can't face teams like even the like of Belgium, because we are drawing against Lesotho, drawing against Zimbabwe. We couldn't win South Africa. When we had games that we have to win, DR Congo, we failed to win. When we had games like South Africa, we failed to win. When we look at Morocco at the AFCON, we failed to win. So when the optics are up or very high, I don't think we can perform at that level. Well, the level of football that is being played at this World Cup is out of the world. That's why you see most of the African team shrink at the last minute. DR Congo, Senegal, Cape Verde, and of course, Egypt. So, infrastructure wise, we are not even 10% close to USA, talk less of Morocco. And when it comes to performance wise, the only two players I believe can enter any team in any African team, maybe Senegal, is only Victor Osimhen and Ademola Lookman. So when you look at those dimensions, I don't think we can match up with any world class when it comes to development or when it comes to teams. So we have a long way to go. Like I said, I'll give Nigeria 20/10, because there's no stadium in Nigeria right now that can host a World Cup match.
Sports, before I let you go, if Nigeria would have qualified for the World Cup with the performance you have seen from different teams, which stage would you believe Nigeria would have gotten to?
Well, I think if you go through the part of South Africa, let me use South Africa because South Africa took our slot from our group. I think we are going to get to the round of 16, because I don't think Canada have anything against over us. I think we are going to beat Canada. So we are going to get to the round of 16 and round of 32 and round of 16. I think the big part will be how we are going to get to the quarterfinal. But I think we are going to leave that, because you see Mexico and all those teams in the group stage of South Africa, they still qualify. I think we are capable to qualify from that group. We get a round of 32. If we play, maybe Canada, we are still going to get a round of 16. So I think round of 16 could have been our benchmark, and anything can happen from there. But based on our performance, based on the group of South Africa, because if you're in the group of Senegal and co, I don't think we can make it out of the group stage. But of course, because of that 8 best losers, I think we can still find a way to qualify out of the group on any group, any African group, if Nigeria were to be at the World Cup. But of course, if you are in that South African team, I think we get to round of 16.
All right, thank you very much, Pooja. Of course, you need to get some rest and prepare ahead of the game tomorrow. Talk about the quarterfinal game, which you will be covering when England will go against Norway. I would have asked you, but let me just let you go. England will be a very, very tough match. Erin Highland going against Harry Kane. Thank you very much. And that is Pooja all the way from Miami, where he's covering the FIFA World Cup. Of course, and making sure he's getting set for the big game tomorrow, where we have England and Norway, and it's going to be Harry Kane versus the man they call Erin Highland coming against themselves. And many will be asking the question, who would win the game? I think the World Cup is now ready, filling into giving us the real expectation, because we're now seeing the big countries, the big stars show themselves. If you look at the highest goal scorers, you will notice that these are the key men. No big surprises, no maybe player that we didn't really expect to do well, that is really doing well in the World Cup. I think the players that we expected to be on the tops, on the score sheet, are really on the score sheet. And let's look at the goal scorers, the chase for the Golden Boot, which we are following up right here. And the question is, who would win the Golden Boot? Of course, Messi is still topping where he has 8 goals. A great one for Messi. Brilliant performance from him, yeah. And Mbappé scoring, yes, making 8 goals, and he is chasing after Messi. And we saw what happens around that. Erin Highland with 7 goals. A very, very interesting one. Harry Kane, 6 goals. The current Ballon d'Or winner, Dembele, with 5 goals. So, as I said, it's just same way we expected. These men, the biggest stars when it comes to striking in the world, are on the top of the top 5 when it comes to winning the Golden Boot. And for many people, it will be onto the last day of the World Cup, come 19th of July, for us to know which particular country or which particular player would win the Golden Boots. And some are saying, oh, maybe Messi. Some are saying Messi or Mbappé. But let's keep our fingers crossed and see what happens around that. And still talking around the FIFA World Cup, because that's what's really happening right now. Now let's visit what Arsène Wenger is saying around the French national team. And the former Arsenal coach is confident that the Deschamps' French team, or the French national team, will definitely win the World Cup. He's saying this based on what happened, where he saw the French national team, defeat what many will call, or the team that many will call the best footballing team in Africa, Morocco. Now, Arsène Wenger believe that they will definitely win the World Cup. So the question would be, let's see how it happens. If we put on paper, which of the countries, let's be realistic to some certain level, which of the countries would we say have not really struggled? Many will easily go the way of France, because France have had a way of getting their own things done. We've seen Argentina struggle to pull it through. But the question, I want to have a repeat of what happened, some 3 years ago and everything. We'll keep our fingers crossed and see what happens around that. But don't forget that France will either play whoever wins between England and Norway game. That's who they would definitely play, and that'll be a very, very interesting one to see how the French, team continue to pull it through. But for Wenger, he believes they are favorites to win the World Cup. And talk about favorites to win the World Cup. The young teenager Yamal is confident of one thing, that they would do well against Belgium, even if he believes that Courtois is one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Now, Yamal believes that beating Courtois, who is the Belgian goalkeeper, will be a very difficult task. But the man believes that, or the youngster, someone says a teenager, he believes that nothing is impossible. The Spanish team will do well. Spanish team are good defensively, and many have called that their biggest strength going into the World Cup. Many have also, criticized them for not having that sweet flow when it comes to knowing the Spanish team. Some talk about the tic-tac football, where we have the Spanish team playing good flowing football from the midfield. Many have criticized them and tried to compare them with the 2010 Spanish team that won the World Cup in South Africa. Many have said they are not up to that, or we can't compare them, and their midfield is not, as good as that particular midfield where we had the likes of Iniesta and Xavi in that 2010 World Cup winning team. But Yamal believes that they have all it takes to go far and win the World Cup. Now let's see what happens, but he believes the first test is to beat Belgium, and he believes we can beat Belgium. Let's keep our fingers crossed and see what happens around the Spanish team as they face Belgium. And let's cross and talk about the man of the day. Every single day in the FIFA World Cup Roundup show on Atlantic TV, we take time to talk about that man who has made us happy. And today, nobody else will take that very, very important spot, if not the man they call Mbappé, who is on super fire. 8 goals from Mbappé already. Mbappé is telling everybody, his critics, that he is the most consistent player in recent World Cup history. Don't forget that we saw same Mbappé where he was just a teenager in 2018, where he wrote his name on everybody's lips. Everybody was talking about one man, Mbappé, in 2018. 4 years later, in 2022, he was the same man, got to the final with the French team, and again, he's doing the same thing in 2026, where we are seeing Mbappé leading this particular French team, being the leader of the team, captaining the team at a very, very young age, and he's not just captaining, but leading them, scoring the goals, and making sure that the French fans are super happy. And today we celebrate Mbappé because Mbappé deserves all the celebration and his consistency when it comes to football. But for so many Real Madrid fans, they can't wait for the season to start and hope that this same form we have Mbappé would have that same form for his club. The interesting part of Mbappé is that he missed a penalty yesterday, just like how Messi missed a penalty in his last game, and Messi still scored a goal. Same thing with him, he missed a penalty. Bono, the goalkeeper of Morocco, very great goalkeeper, did everything to make sure the French team don't score and France don't score, but trust the man that called Mbappé was able to get it through, and that's why we must continue to celebrate Mbappé and say the future of football is really bright. And talking about the bright side of football, let's look at what is trending. On the FIFA World Cup show, we always look at that very, very special moment, that trending part outside the field, that part that gets us to love the game beyond what we see happening on the pitch. And today, we'll look at something that happened that was really spectacular. Talk about yesterday, where we saw this very, very interesting thing that happened after France won their game and the celebration in their dressing room, and having a special guest there. Who else if not the man they call Thierry Henry? Yes, the man who, when it comes to football, has written his name in gold. And I can remember when France won the World Cup in 2018, with the popular dance he had to dance and everything. And for many people, this is just the bomb. I think I love what I'm saying. I love the fact that Thierry Henry is doing something very special. On the show, we spoke around the fact that the French national team have done something very special beyond just playing good football. They've allowed their legends to go into the dressing room and have a way to inspire these players. And this is one man when it comes to inspiring players around the world. Talk about Thierry Henry. He's really a big inspiration to every youngster, every young player. And this is what he did again yesterday, go into the dressing room to tell those boys thank you and say we expect more from you. And I can't imagine what would happen if France wins the World Cup. To be a real party for them. I think they're out for revenge, based on what happened last time out, where they had to, lose that final game against Argentina. But some will say, Richard, cool down. Yes, I'm calm right now. Let's wait until the 19th of July when the final game will take place, and we will see who would, have the final smile, whether France would have a chance to win the World Cup. This is all we have for you on the show today. Thank you for joining us on the FIFA World Cup Roundup show on Atlantic TV. We'll see you next week on that package where we'll follow up on what's happening around the World Cup. Now, the interesting part is that from next week, we'll be counting down to the 19th of July, will be the final day when it comes to the World Cup. And by then, our fingers will be crossed. And then the picture will now be clearer who are those that are going to move in to the final. By this time next week, we'll be talking about the final match, and we will know who the two teams that would now play in the final game. But keep our fingers crossed. Richard Nwaje, I'll see you next week.